all of the people picking. Joe Warren will be going first. Andrew is in here going third. Zoidstein will be 4. Goat 77 will be 6th, and I will be going last. However, we are going to mix up the order, everybody. We are going to randomize the order. So just because you claim the spot doesn't mean necessarily that's where you're going. We are going to do a PPR league. It is a snake draft, PPR league, 8 teams. Everybody gets 60 seconds to make their pick. The draft order, we're going to randomize it right now. Zoidstein will be going first. But Fumble Sports will be third. Joe Warren will be 4th. Andrew, Goat 77, they'll be going on the rear. Everybody, hope you enjoy our mock draft. And away we go. The mock draft is now live. Zoidstein, you are on the clock with the first pick of our 8-team mock draft. Again, this is a PPR today. Justin Jefferson is the first pick. I have the first running back. I love Austin Eckler. I'm going to take him number 1. Absolutely. So Austin Eckler, first pick for me. Joe Warren, you are now on the clock. Yeah, sorry about that, Jorge. Jorge got last pick. Yeah, tough. Sorry about it, Jorge. But that's not bad. I actually think, especially in an 8-team league, it's actually nice to have that whip around where you can go back-to-back. Joe Warren, we're waiting on your pick. And Joe Warren went with Travis Kelce. Very interesting. Team 5 did us the favor of going with Cooper Kupp. Jamar Chase went 6. Andrew is on the clock. Goes with Stephon Diggs. Interesting play. And Jorge is now on the clock with his first pick and the final pick of the first round in an 8-team mock draft in a PPR league. He goes Tyreek Hill first. Very interesting. A run on wide receiver for all of those fantasy owners who are using this mock draft as maybe a way of reading the tea leaves for your own draft. Already a run on wide receiver. Very surprised by that. Not surprised that then there's a run on running back. Andrew with a very nice pick of Bijan Robinson. Jorge is banking on Saquon Barkley being available. Patrick Mahomes, the first quarterback taken. You could tell Team 5's on the auto draft with Cooper Kupp and Patrick Mahomes coming off the board at 1-2. Still, probably not, still a great team, but Joe Warren has a tight end. Joe Warren has a wide receiver. And Joe Warren did me the favor, because if you're saying I can have a draft in my first 2 picks where I can have Austin Eckler and Nick Chubb, I'll just tell you, yes, I will take that every single time. My running backs, I have 2 number 1 running backs, loaded. And by the way, with how the draft is going to whip around here, I probably could load up on another running back. So Zoidstein goes with Derrick Henry, strong pick. But I could have 3 running backs and be loaded at probably the hardest position to have depth. Maybe I want my wide receiver, but I certainly love the fact that that running back came so easy to me in this draft. Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's going to end up being a good pick, mark my words. Now, I have the option of A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jalen Waddle. I do feel like A.J. Brown might come back to the pack just a little bit this year. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm really high on. Jalen Waddle, I'm high on as well. Just want to show the tight end position as well. Mark Andrews, not going to go with Mark Andrews. I feel like I can get value at the tight end position a little bit later. I know Joe Warren went with that pick a little bit earlier. And at quarterback, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. I'm going to wait until probably the next 2 rounds to go after tight end, go after quarterback. So for now, it's between running back and wide receiver. I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. I'm not going to overthink this one. Just a stud of a wide receiver. So A.J. Brown goes for me. That run on wide receiver, I'm happy that happened. I'm glad that I took A.J. Brown when I did. That run on running back happened. Joe Warren went with Jalen Waddle. Nice pick by Joe Warren. I'm curious, Joe Warren, would you have selected A.J. Brown if I hadn't taken him. Just kind of curious. Andrew is now on the clock. Andrew with some good first picks with Stephon Diggs and Bijan Robinson, and then goes George Kittle. Andrew has a really good team at different positions so far, so really strong. By the way, love what Jorge just did, going after Ramondre Stevenson and Jahmyr Gibbs. Love those two. You just took, I would have taken one of those two guys if you hadn't. Love those picks that you just made. So I think Jorge's building a really strong team, like the team Drew is building as well. I actually feel like these teams that are, when you're in an 8-team league, I actually think you're better served drafting 7 and 8 than you are at 1 or 2. I actually think it's better for you. So the tight end position once again moves as Mark Andrews is taken off the board at tight end. Hawkinson's available. I actually really like Hawkinson. I need the tight end. I am going to take him. So Hawkinson maybe isn't one that I expected to take this early. I would have waited an extra round, but the run on tight end had me a little bit worried. Running back is still maybe a position of need for some of those out there. Travis Etienne, a good pick. Najee Harris, a good pick. Don't have my quarterback yet. Living a bit on the edge with that. Joe Burrow has been taken. I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson. I think Lamar Jackson has an MVP caliber year, so very happy about that. Najee Harris comes off the board. Olave off the board. Walker off the board. Now we're back to Andrew. Andrew goes Justin Fields. Andrew's building a dynamic team. Really like what Andrew's building. Banking on Justin Fields having a good year, but a really solid team. When you have Fields, your running backs are Robinson and Pollard, Diggs, and then Kittle, really solid. Justin Herbert comes off the board, and then Etienne. Great pick. I actually think that Jorge probably has maybe one of the best teams. He's got 4 running backs, and all of them are good. Really strong in developing that depth at the running back position. You'll never hear me argue against that. Really good play. So now we've had a bit of a run on wide receiver. Kind of happy about that a little bit because they didn't take Calvin Ridley, and I'm really high on Calvin Ridley. So easy for me for my second wide receiver. I love my team. Lamar Jackson, Eckler and Chubb, and now I've got Brown and Ridley to then go with Hawkinson. I feel like my team is very balanced, really strong. That's how it should be in an 8-team league. If you're in an 8-team league and you don't feel like you have balance, you did something wrong. Speaking of balance, finally Zoidstein got his tight end, Dallas Goedert. Now he's on the turnaround. Aaron Jones, McLaurin, and Fumble Sports is back on the clock. At wide receiver, no one I really like. Let's look back at running back. J.K. Dobbins, definitely someone I'd be interested in. Dameon Pierce, actually, is someone that I might actually... Dameon Pierce is where I'm going to go. Believe it or not, I think he could have a decent year, and especially kind of taking it as a flyer, a fill-in player for my 2 running backs. I like this play. For the moment, he would be my flex. I ultimately think he just provides good depth. So Dameon Pierce will be my running back. James Conner, Dobbins go next. Miles Sanders follows. So a run on running back. Glad I took a running back when I did, given how the rest of the round played out. Now we have Andrew and Jorge. Andrew goes with Brandon Ayuk. Wide receiver position might be a bit of a problem outside of Diggs for Andrew. Hopkins and Ayuk. Some question marks there either about the quarterback or just the situation in general. Jorge takes Amari Cooper. Jorge, I actually think, has the best team right now. If I had to give a grade, I'd say Jorge is an A+. I think Barkley was the only risky play, and he complemented that with having so much depth at running back. I give a lot of credit to Jorge. I think he did a really good job. Yeah, Jorge, I think you made a really smart decision. If you're going to go with Barkley, get the depth. And you got Freiermuth. Tight end's a deep enough position where taking him, not a bad play at all. Andrew, as you can see, went with Diggs, then Robinson, Kittle, Pollard, Fields, and has gone back-to-back at the wide receiver position. But frankly, I'm not crazy about the wide receivers that he went with. Curious to know if he goes back to that well, if he tries to build out some of the depth at the running back position, with Pollard coming off an injury, Bijan Robinson being a rookie. Andrew might want to get some depth at the running back position, and he did. DeAndre Swift, that's a smart play. By the way, Joe Warren waited as long as he did in this draft and got Trevor Lawrence. That's a sign to you. If you're in an 8-man league, you don't need to reach on quarterbacks because you could get a Trevor Lawrence in the 8th round. That is a steal to go along with the picks that you have already. Okay, now it's my turn on the clock. I'm curious about Drake London. He's not someone I'm throwing away necessarily. Running back position, Madison kind of has my eye. I'm interested in him, but not enough. Dalvin Cook, where does he land? I think for me, the only other thing I would do, and I'm going to jump on it now, I'm going to take Pacheco because I don't want someone to take him in the next couple of picks. There are some other players I could get at other positions, but wanted to take that Pacheco play right away. Drew, how do I feel about Kincaid and Darnell Washington? Love them both as players. When it comes to fantasy, Kincaid is the only one that I actually really like. Darnell Washington, not as much, not from a fantasy standpoint. So Zoidstein went Godwin and then Madison, good play. By the way, Team 2 went with Kyle Pitts. Another quarterback and tight end. You can wait on those. If you want to wait, I know I took them in the 4th and 5th round, but if you want to wait, you could get Trevor Lawrence and Kyle Pitts late in the draft. Speaking of the wide receiver position, I am going to get some depth there, but first, I probably need to address wide receiver. So, like I mentioned a moment ago, I will go with Drake London. It's a bit of a risk. I'm not crazy about the play, but I'm going to take it. It's just a bit of a flyer. I need some depth there, so I will take Drake London. Dalvin Cook, Cam Akers, and Mike Williams off the board. Now we have 2 human pickers with Andrew and Jorge making the next 4 consecutive picks. Very curious. These guys have done a really good job on their draft. Wow. Andrew went a little early, I think, with the Eagles defense. I'm curious to know if now there's going to be a run on defense. I think that would still be a little bit early for me. I wouldn't go with defense just yet. Jackson Smith and Jigba. Jorge's having the best draft, everybody. Even I love my team. I think Jorge's team is the best one so far. Has built a really strong squad. Really strong. So Jorge, nice job. Jamal Williams is a good backup. Good TD producer. So I think Jorge is really on to something. Let's see if Andrew goes kicker and just wants to fill out his roster right now. I know a few fantasy owners who like to do that. They like to build in their number 1 squad right away. They'll just take picks as they come. We are doing an 8-team fantasy football mock draft. Yeah, defense in the 9th round is a bit of a reach for me. I agree, Jorge. There are too many other positions of need. There's too much depth you need, so that's why I wasn't. But if you love the Eagles, if you love a certain team, if you love a certain player, if this were an auction draft, I would feel differently. An auction draft, I would probably jump right in on somebody. So Pittman, Brown go next, 1-2. Very happy about that because I don't like either one. White then goes. And Joe Warren is now on the clock. Joe Warren with a good team, but a bunch of guys where it's like you don't quite know which way they're going to go. Alvin Kamara very much fit the bill for that one. Okay, I want to continue to build some depth at the wide receiver position. I feel like that's an area where I'm weak. So I will take Christian Kirk. Like my team from a depth perspective, really think it's a bit top-heavy on the top 2 running backs and wide receiver. I think Jorge probably has the best team. I probably put myself second. Zoidstein's got a good team. Very interesting what Zoidstein's built. I actually think Zoidstein's team is better than people would probably think. I'm back on the clock, so I need to actually focus now. I have 4 running backs. Do I want a 5th? I'll take Brian Robinson just to secure as much running back depth as possible, but not necessarily somebody I needed. Just felt like really like him on the Washington Commanders. Felt like I could get another running back. Just add it. There's no harm taking 5 running backs. I'm never gonna have a problem with that, especially when I feel like the running backs that I get are productive. Evans and Johnson came off the board. So a run on wide receiver there. Beckham, the run on wide receiver continues. Jorge about to make his pick. Waller fell. Just keep note of that. Darren Waller could be a steal. Quentin Johnston. By the way, I love that Jorge's taking some chances on rookie wide receivers. I think that's a really good idea. Really good idea. And then Jorge takes the 49ers defense. Now is an appropriate time to start looking at defense. That was a good call. Good call to take the 49ers. So the 49ers and Eagles are off the board. That's a good play. That's really strong. Being able to... I think Jorge's built the best team right now. I would put myself at second. I'd probably put Joe Warren at third. And by the way, if you guys want to participate in our fantasy football mock drafts every day, make sure you hit us up on Instagram. That's Fumble Sports on Instagram. Joe Warren has a tight end. What does Joe Warren need? Oh, he went back to the tight end with Njoku. Not crazy about this. I'm going to take the Jets defense. I'm not crazy about it, though. I don't like it. I don't like getting the Jets defense. Final 3 rounds of the draft. Final 3 rounds of the draft. And I can... Zoidstein got the Bills defense. I'm going to double down on defenses, believe it or not. I'm going to double down on defenses. And I am also going to take the Cowboys defense. I'm doubling down on defenses. I want 2. Since I didn't get one of the top defenses, I'm actually willing to take 2 and play them in rotation. Since I didn't get the Eagles or the 49ers, the 2 defenses I want, I feel like I just got 2 top 5 defenses, and I've kind of boxed out everyone else who's picking. So Joe Warren, that's exactly what I wanted to do. I felt like other people would like the Jets or the Cowboys. I kind of box others out. I can play the 2 of them in tandem. Again, if you're in an 8-team league and you feel like you have a really strong squad, really strong bench, maybe adding a second defense isn't the worst thing. Joe Warren, I could tell you were pissed off about that, so glad I did that, but you got your Steelers, so there you go. By the way, look at where Deshaun Watson just went. Deshaun Watson just went in the 13th round. So there's quarterbacks that could be taken late in a draft, running backs, wide receivers, and top-end tight ends. Those are the positions of most need, of greatest value. Tony, oh man, Jorge, you took a ton of players that I like. I thought Jorge won this draft. You did a great job. Cole Kmet, another player that I love. Jorge, bravo. Thought you did a brilliant job on this draft, Jorge. Really nice job. Showing Joe Warren, Andrew, Zoidstein, myself, and Jorge on the board. Tito's full send. Yes, we do have J.D. Martinez on a home run. Yes, we do. Concluding this mock draft, and then getting back to our game picks. So if you're still waiting around for our game picks, don't worry, we're getting to them. Tito's full send, you're right on it. Andrew goes with Michael Thomas. Then we have a run-on kicker. Not surprised that the run-on kicker has started. A little surprised, actually, that Jorge didn't go kicker. I thought Cole Kmet, you could have waited on that, frankly. You could have found another tight end in the final round. Interesting that you're waiting until last on kicker. We'll see if Joe Warren goes kicker or to add some depth to the team. Another running back, another wide receiver. Where will Joe Warren go? I sit on deck. And you're going Jared Goff. Good backup quarterback play. I am going to go with my kicker. I am going to go By the way, Tucker came off the board by Andrew. Didn't even see that play earlier. So that run on kicker. Man, tough spot. I'm going to take Elliott. I'll take Jake Elliott. I'm not crazy about it, but I'll take him just because I like the Eagles' offense. Zoidstein. He needs a kicker out of these next two picks, at least one of them. Still Tyler Bass on the board, probably the best one. By the way, Brandon McManus isn't bad either. Brandon McManus now with Jacksonville. That's not a bad pick for somebody. Jorge, I could see Jorge taking that pick. I can see Jorge taking Brandon McManus, getting a great kicker with a good offense. Jorge, if you do that, I would officially crown you the king of this mock draft. I know you got a bunch of rookies, but I like that play. Okay, I need a backup quarterback. I'm going to take Tua. What a good backup quarterback. So, Joe Warren's final pick of this 8-man mock draft. This is a PPR league mock draft, an 8-man snake draft. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys want to participate in our mock drafts, we will do one almost every day. Just DM us, Fumble Sports on Instagram. That's Fumble Sports on Instagram. Andrew's final pick is Pirine, and Jorge's final pick is, wouldn't you know, Brandon McManus. I knew it, Jorge. Love the draft you just had. Let's look at the teams. Zoidstein. Let's look at these teams really quick. Zoidstein went Justin Jefferson, then doubled up on running back, T. Higgins, Burrow. So a little bit loaded on the Cincinnati offense, but not a bad thing. Running backs, you might have some issues. Those are guys who have a lot of tread on the tire, but a lot of big brand names. Did get some good depth at running back, I thought. Wide receiver, the depth really isn't there. Waited a little too late maybe to go after the wide receiver position. Tight ends are okay. Feel like they're pretty good in terms of depth. I probably, with Goddard, would have gone towards a wide receiver there, maybe another running back. You could have waited on a tight end, given that Goddard, he's good, but he's not great. Decent team overall by Zoid's team. Looking at team 2. Oh, apparently I can't show team 2 because it's an auto draft. But team 2, Garrett, I think the combination of Devontae Adams and Wilson, along with Devontae Smith, really loaded up on wide receiver. So, clearly a team a lot of us are going to be trading with. Do I actually think there's going to be a team that drafts that many wide receivers that early? No. One of the reasons that a mock draft with a computer can kind of throw things off. As for how we did, I loved getting Eckler and Chubb 1-2. To get A.J. Brown as well. Probably reached a little early on the tight end position. I was feeling a little bit of pressure. Hawkinson, I definitely put in that tier of Kelsey and Andrews. Maybe even better than Kittle as someone to target at tight end. Probably reached a little early on that just because I thought there might be a run on the tight end position. There wasn't. That's good knowledge to take away from this. I was a one-man run, so because of that, I'll probably wait till later, maybe like the 6th, 7th round to go after my tight end. Lamar Jackson, happy I got him where I did. Thought that he easily could have been taken in the first 4 rounds, so happy I got him at 5. Calvin Ridley, I think, could be a steal. I actually think Drake London was a really good pick to build out some depth at wide receiver. Overall, wasn't happy with maybe the final 5 rounds of the draft. Got away from me a little bit. I had to double down on defense just because I didn't get the defense I really wanted in the Eagles and the 49ers. Looking at Joe Warren, Travis Kelce, Lamb, Waddle, Metcalf. You can't go wrong with that group. The only issue is probably Tua's health, but overall, that's a really strong group. Running back is just weak. Running back's weak with Najee Harris and Connor. You're relying on 2 running backs who can have good games, but they're kind of power backs. You're kind of banking on touchdowns with them. Really not crazy about it. You don't know where Dalvin Cook's going to be. Alvin Kamara, not the same runner as he was the last few years. Joe Warren, I feel like you might have been able to go after a running back. You went really heavy on the wide receiver. I get it. It's 2 wide receivers and a flex. But overall, I feel like you probably needed a running back in those first 4 picks. So I do think that was a bit of a miss by Joe Warren. Team 5, Cooper Kupp, Mahomes, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mark Andrews. It ended up being a really good first half of the draft. But again, weak on the running back position. Team 6, I actually think Team 6 had a really strong draft. Chase, love that in the first round. Then Taylor, Hurts, Hall, and Walker. Wow. Great running backs. You still have maybe arguably the best wide receiver in the draft, maybe the best quarterback in the draft. So I love what the auto draft for Team 6 did. They waited on Evan Ingram. They got the Patriots defense. Might be not a great pick given that they're in the AFC East, but I actually think that Team 6 did a pretty good job. Let's look at Andrew now. Andrew started really strong. Diggs, Robinson, Kittle, and Pollard. Also Justin Fields. Really love where he started. Hopkins and Ayuk is where it kind of fell off for me. DeAndre Swift, you probably could have gotten another running back in this spot with Hopkins. Maybe ETN being picked right after. That would have been a spot to maybe take it. So anyways, Hopkins and Ayuk, just not quite the combo I would have gone with there. Wide receiver, I don't feel like you ever figured out after Diggs. You're just kind of searching for guys who are all kind of like tier 3 or 4, not necessarily tier 2. Went a little early with the defense, went a little early on the kicker, but if you got the two guys you like, you can't argue with it. But overall, I think you're strong in your starters, you're weaker in your bench. So something to keep note of, Andrew. And finally, Jorge. I love Jorge's draft. I am not going to sugarcoat it. Thought Jorge did really well. The only question early was Barkley, but you can't argue it when you got the depth of Stevenson, Gibbs, and Etienne all backing him up. So if he sits week 1, no problem there. As for wide receiver, you got Tyreek Hill. Love that. You got Amari Cooper. I like that. Additionally, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Quentin Johnston, feel like those are really strong. Oh, and Kadarius Toney as a throwaway sleeper pick. Great play. Great steal. Thought that was a really good play thought that was a really good pick by Jorge. Cole Kmet and Freiermuth, they're kind of the same player. They're going to give you good production, maybe a touchdown, every third week or so, but definitely a safety valve for younger quarterbacks. So I actually really like that. And Brandon McManus, absolutely a good pick. Think that's a steal. So Jorge did a really good job in this draft, got a good defense, good kicker. I think Jorge probably was my favorite team in terms of the draft. I think Jorge probably comes out number 1. I feel good about my team at number 2. And I think it's probably a toss-up between Team 6, Joe Warren, and Andrew probably for third. Zoidstein's not far behind either.